On the 4th of September 476, Romulus Augustulus was deposed by Foederati General Odoacer, marking the end of the Western Roman half of the empire. But as long as Roman soldiers elsewhere remained, the idea of the empire spanning the entire Mediterranean was still not yet lost. There was still a chance for the fallen eagle to rise from the ashes, with one man having that very same dream where maybe, just maybe, his dynasty would lead to a resurgent Roman civilization stronger than ever before. This is the story of that same dream. It all starts on the very same day that the child emperor was ousted from power. On the 4th of September 476 CE, an army of Foederati under the command of Odoacer breached the walls of the western Roman capital at Ravenna and forced the Emperor Romulus Augustulus to abdicate, ending Roman rule over Western Europe and leading to Afrianus of Soissons, Nepos of Illyria, and Sinon of the Eastern Roman Empire to try and preserve Roman rule and influence. Odoacer was a Germanic soldier/statesman who presided over the final end of the Western Roman Empire through his capture of Ravenna, establishing his own Italian kingdom as a result. But even if the Eternal City was now under the jurisdiction of a Germanic general, that doesn't mean that all hope was lost. Over in northern Gaul, Afrianus Siagris rules over what is commonly known as the domain of Soissons, having inherited his father's position. But Soissons finds itself beset on all sides by the Visigoths, Alans, Burgundians, and worst of all, the Franks. Meanwhile, the Eastern Roman Emperor, Zeno, is contending civil unrest and is now powerless to intervene in Western European affairs. That only leaves Julius Nepos, governor of Illyria and former Western Roman Emperor, in exile. He is the only one with a position to reclaim the Eternal City's domain over the West. As Romulus Augustulus falls, Odoacer ascends, the curtain of opportunity for Nepos has only just begun. Okay, I've actually done a few test playthroughs of this, and what happens here is that you actually get randomized sons. Like, even though Julius Nepos technically is like a starring character, your sons are actually randomized. In this case, as you can see, they're all boys. And why is that a problem? Well, the problem is that we don't actually, because we only have boys, we can't actually get any good alliances going. So yeah, this would be starting as hard mode, because if you're lucky, like here, like if you're lucky to get a daughter in this case, you could actually ally none other than the Visigoths. And if you look here, they have 5,000 soldiers. And why would you want to ally someone like the Visigoths? Well, it's quite simple. As the governor of Illyria, you have a scary neighbor called the Kingdom of Italy that has 4,000 soldiers and wants your land. So instead of, waiting to just basically die by Odoacer's hands with, a certain alliance with the Germanics here, we can pretty much take the fight to Odoacer himself. Also in this mod, the bureaucratic and autocratic rulers have access to a new mechanic called the Imperial Competence, where if you perform poorly, well, you get fucked. But if you do well, you can pass some laws with different bonuses and orientations on what you want to do with your administration. Like, instead of having a levy-based army, you can have a professional army, stuff like that. As news of the child emperor being deposed reached Nepos in Illyria, he knew that Odoacer would eventually come for him. So instead of waiting until his inevitable fate, he took to the offensive, managing to convince both of the groups of people that once sacked Rome, the Vandals and the Visigoths. And to be fair, I really have no better idea on how to justify this happening for roleplay reasons, so here's the best I managed to come up with. Of supporting his campaign into the Italian peninsula, he offered the remaining loot found in not just the Eternal City, but also Italy. The Vandals and the Visigoths, seeking to enrich themselves further, pledged their support for Nepos and his reconquest of the Eternal City. Before Odoacer could get comfortable in his new position and even start negotiations with the Eastern Roman Emperor, the armies of Nepos and his allies crossed the unofficial border into Italia. Odoacer took up arms and quickly pushed the initial forces of Nepos back into Illyria, as his actual army was waiting for the arrival of the Visigoths and the Vandals. The Vandals, having complete naval superiority, paved the way for a secure travel for their and the Visigothic armies arriving in Illyria. Now that the entire invasion force was united, the march into northern Italia began. Surprisingly, Odoacer took a different approach to the conflict. He instead went to siege the Visigothic lands to try and get them out of the war as soon as possible, as he saw them as the biggest threat not just in this campaign by Nepos, but in the future as well, should he continue to hold over his kingdom. So the combined arms of Nepos sieged the imperial capital of Ravenna for the second time in recent years, but even this was not enough to force Odoacer into peace talks. So after the Battle of Monaco took place where Nepos and his Germanic allies defeated Odoacer, Nepos now had a clear path to the Eternal City. As Nepos started the siege, Odoacer saw the futility of the war and gave up. Nominally, Nepos would serve as the governor of all the Italian peninsula and Western Roman Emperor, but in reality his control only went as far as the outskirts of the Eternal City and his domain in Illyria. Meanwhile, Odoacer would continue to serve as the administrator of the rest of Italia, being under the former Western Roman Emperor, but in reality he was more autonomous than what it appeared. Nepos moved his current administration and capital to Rome as he would serve as a better position to manage the territories he claimed. Nepos also adopted more classical Roman traditions, as governing the city of Rome would be different to governing the Illyrio-Romans and his homeland. But just as all of this was happening, the Eastern Roman Emperor, not knowing the entire situation, sent the Ostrogothic king Theodoric to take over Italy from Odoacer. Theodoric's armies crushed the battered armies of Odoacer as communication between the two Roman emperors was finally established. Zeno, now in contact with his ally Nepos, tried to call off his deal with Theodoric, but it was too late, as he wouldn't listen and took over the domain that was governed by Odoacer. But not everything was smooth sailing for Theodoric, as even though Nepos was not strong enough to enforce his authority over the Ostrogothic king, and Zeno still dealing with his own affairs in the east, one thing was made clear by the Eastern Emperor: if Theodoric dared to step one foot into Nepos' domain, he would not see the end of that year. So Theodoric sat content with his new domain, but even this did not last, as the rest of the Roman people, now under his rule, revolted and broke free from his hand. But not to return to Roman administration of Nepos, oh no. They saw the opportunity to declare independence and create their own petty fiefdoms, claiming to be the Western Roman Emperor themselves. With this, Nepos knew that if he wanted to be seen and recognized as a true Western Roman Emperor, he would need to reconquer the Italian peninsula by force. This also included the Vandals that still controlled parts of North Africa, specifically Sicily, Sardinia, and Carthage. As the road to total unification would be long, Nepos sought to reorganize his army by reinstalling the old Roman formations and professional soldiers of the comitatenses, being way better than any Germanic soldier. Considering the situation where no one saw Nepos as the true Western Roman Emperor apart from his Eastern counterpart, he sought to reorganize the administration by putting it under military control for the while being and renaming his administration into the Provisional Roman Authority of Italia. Wars continued over the whole peninsula. Where even Nepos' own son died in battle for the reclamation of all the provinces in Italia. But that did not deter him, as he used every possible way to gain an advantage over his foes. To even ordering the assassination of his rivals. But nothing lasts forever, as at the age of 74 years, Nepos passed away in his peaceful sleep, leaving the mantle and the task of reuniting Italia into the hands of his second son, Valerian, and finished what Julius Nepos started. Immediately, Valerian followed his father's actions and took over the whole northeastern part of Italia, connecting the lands of Illyria and Italia. Just as a quick intermission, these borders actually look similar to the provinces that the Byzantines held in Italy after the Lombards invaded. Wars continued to be spilled, but quickly the central part of Italy was under Valerian's rule. But we have only been talking about Italy this whole time, so what was actually happening in the rest of the known world? For one, the Eastern Empire continued to consolidate the rule over the East and expanded into the Caucasus as the Sassanid Empire imploded. Gaul, Hispania, and Britannia continued to be in constant chaos, especially the Franks as they had taken over Syagrius' domain in northern Gaul. But Valerian could not waste any more time trying to worry about the situation of the rest of the empires as provinces, as Italia was still divided by petty rulers in their fiefdom, arming themselves until Valerian's armies came crashing down. At last, by the year 528, most of all of Italia was brought back under Roman authority, apart from some remaining warlords in southern and northwestern Italia, but it didn't matter, as this was almost enough to secure complete recognition by all the powers around Valerian's rule to officially proclaim him Western Roman Emperor and return to civilian rule. But before Valerian was to be crowned as Emperor of the Romans in the West, he wanted to completely unify the Italian peninsula, so he took up arms to finish up the remaining petty kingdoms for good. Valerian also recreated the old provinces of Italia Annonaria and Italia Suburbicaria before his proclamation. And finally, at long last, on the 21st of September of the year 538, Valerian was crowned as Western Roman Emperor. The Senate in Rome and the Eastern Roman Emperor approving his ascension, Western Roman authority was back. But even with this being a glorious victory and worthy of celebration by the Romans all throughout the imperial provinces, there was still a lot of work to be done, as Gaul, Hispania, Africa and Britannia were still under barbaric rule, and all finally culminating in the reunification of both empires. But that story is for another time. And that is it for this part of the campaign, as Julius Nepos trying to restore the Roman Empire into its former glory even after Germanic invasions. Next part, we will be continuing this adventure by reclaiming the rest of the Western Empire, reuniting both halves of the Empire, and a little surprise. But for now, this was the Factus Expert. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you would like to see more content like this, remember to subscribe, as this really helps out the channel. You are dismissed, soldier.